Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Carricker and company.
Hi kids, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us. That is Andrew Rogers, I'm Randy Carricker, and the winter warm-up is over, and that means we're headed towards baseball, Andrew.
And it is baseball season now that I have no care to watch the NFL playoffs, Randy.
And obviously the weather doesn't feel like baseball, but coming up, is Brendan Donovan going to be a Cardinal on opening day? Another big week for SLU basketball, and we have story time with Uncle Randy later in the show. But let's get things started with our quick hits. And Andrew, the Cardinals are less than a month away from spring training, and Chaim Bloom, the Cardinals president of baseball operations, made an interesting comment about the possibility of a Donovan trade this weekend at the winter warm-up. Bloom said,
my general thought, absent something that I know is imminent, is that most of the time if a player is here, it's likely that they're going to be here than not. I guess the one exception to that this offseason was Arenado, that we were in a bit of a different situation with. But I can't say it as an absolute. This is obviously, like we talked about, the offseason is sort of paced a bit differently these days, and I don't know that anybody had on their bingo card that like this weekend you would see some remarkable free agent contracts, if reports are true, happen and be agreed upon this weekend. Some of these things are hard to foresee.
So with that being the case, I'm still going to assume that Brendan Donovan is going to be here until he's not.
And that shakes everything up, right?
Yeah.
If he is here come opening day, everything that we think will look, how the infield will look, how the outfield will look, will all change because Brendan Donovan is the most consistent bat, and you will not have him in the lineup. What I thought was really interesting in that quote was what he said about Nolan Arenado, how basically we knew that he wasn't going to be here. Is that kind of just saying the quiet part out loud that the Cardinals, if they couldn't find a trade suitor, were going to cut him?
Yes, because that's why on the last day of the season, you put Arenado at third, took him out before he even had a chance to field the ball so that he could get his standing ovation and go. Yeah, they knew that Arenado was not going to be here. The Blues have 2 more games left on their road trip, both division games, tomorrow in Winnipeg and then Friday in Dallas. The Blues aren't the only team thinking about dealing, though. The Rangers sent a letter to their fans saying they're planning to trade veteran players. Is it possible, I know this sounds out there, but is it possible that the supply this year could outweigh the demand for good players as we head to the Olympic break and a trade embargo? If you're another team in need of offense, would you rather have Artemi Panarin or a member of the Blues? Ryan O'Reilly or a member of the Blues? Steven Stamkos or a member of the Blues? And not just the Rangers and the Predators, but the Canucks and the Jets and the Flames probably will be selling good players too. Might be a good idea for Doug Armstrong to get ahead of the game here.
I would agree in terms of every question that you asked. I'd rather have Panarin. I would rather have Stamkos. In fact, I'd rather have Ryan O'Reilly for how he leads on the ice. That leadership quality alone is all I would need to bring that guy into a contending situation. The Blues just don't have a lot of value with their guys right now. Now, at the same time, this Olympic break could also be really good for the Blues. Like the Four Nations face-off break was good for the Blues, and they could go on some type of tear in the month of March and somehow squeak into the playoffs because they just seem to be teetering near the wild card window. So in general, though, if I'm Doug Armstrong, yes, I need to be making trades today rather than waiting until closer to the deadline.
And if I'm Doug Armstrong, I'm saying, okay, I'm tired of these guys. I don't even want to see them anymore. I've seen enough. So if they go and they explode for somebody else, so be it. But I just don't see it happening here. That's the way I'm looking at it from my perspective. The NFL Conference Championships are set for next Sunday. Houston at Denver at 2 o'clock St. Louis time, and then the Rams at Seattle at 5:30. The division weekend was a mixed bag. The Seahawks blew out the 49ers, and the Patriots hammered Houston, and a couple of overtime games, the Broncos over Buffalo and the Rams over the Bears. It's amazing how every game was decided by turnovers, though. Buffalo's Josh Allen threw a costly, if controversial, interception and fumbled twice in Buffalo's loss to Denver. Brock Purdy threw 3 picks, and Sam Darnold didn't throw any in Seattle's rout of San Francisco. C.J. Stroud threw 4 interceptions in the first half as Houston lost, and Caleb Williams' interceptions led to the Rams' first touchdown and their last field goal. It comes down to turnovers.
I'll attack this more in the next segment, but what I will say right now is there aren't a lot of teams in football, whether you are playing in high school, whether you are playing in the NFL, that if you turn the ball over more than the other team, that you end up winning that football game. You have to win the turnover margin every single time you are out there on the turf. And those teams that lost did not do that. And they were chasing more than they felt like they were in a comfortable spot to win those football games.
And one of the surprising things to me about your game, the Bears game, we knew the Rams were going to take the ball away because they do. They're probably the best in the league. If they aren't the best in the league, then the Bears were. And the fact that the Bears couldn't take the ball away really hindered their chances to win.
And I think that was the experience of Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford just knows, how to run and manage a game. Meanwhile, Caleb Williams, he still kind of shows a little bit of those flaws of a young quarterback. That doesn't mean he isn't far better than what he was last season. And some of those interceptions, too, weren't his fault, ergo the last one that happened in overtime. So if you win the turnover margin, though, end of day, you probably win the football game. And the Rams ended up winning that football game.
College basketball, St. Louis University has a chance to get to 18-1 and maybe 19-1 this week with a Tuesday nighter at Duquesne and then a Friday night game at St. Bonaventure. The hardest thing to do in team sports, in my opinion, is win a college basketball conference road game. But the Bills appear to be by far the best team in the A-10. Is there an expected loss on the horizon? I keep looking and I don't see one.
You look at everything SLU does. They are the best shooting team in the Atlantic 10, and that's field goal percentage and three-point shooting team. They're the best rebounding team. They are the best, or rather middle of the pack in turnovers. They're the best at holding teams away from the basket. They have the best scoring margin in the A-10. It is hard to find a bad thing about this SLU team. And you know what's funny about that? And I agree with you. Winning on the road is the hardest thing to do in basketball. It seems like winning at home, unless you're SLU, is the hardest thing to do in basketball in the A-10 right now. You just look at the home records on a lot of these teams, they're not even 500. So, protecting home floor has been a lot harder for the LaSalles, the Fordhams, the Richmonds than it has been for SLU in this case.
And it's really hard to find competitive young people that are willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team. We had Josh Schertz on last week, and he was talking about the buy-in in terms of the 9-man rotation, people being willing to give up minutes. In addition to being a really pliable team, this St. Louis U team appears to be really tough mentally and really highly competitive, too.
Everybody does something really well. Thames, and the way he's been taking over games has been incredible to watch.
And coming off the bench to do it. The Toronto Blue Jays were willing to go 10 years for free agent outfielder Kyle Tucker, but they fell far short on the average annual value that he ultimately received from the Dodgers. Toronto's offer to Tucker was for 10 years and $350 million. The two-time defending World Series champions got him for 4 years and $240 million, $60 million in AAV, which just beat out what the Mets offered at $55 million. New York quickly pivoted and got Bo Bichette to a similar deal in terms of control, 3 years, $126 million, $42 a year. Are these two deals the start of something new, massive money over just a few years? And is that a ballpark St. Louis could play in at some point? I think you have to be really willing to give up the opt-outs, because when you look at what happened with Pete Alonso, okay, he signs for 1 year with the Mets, he takes the opt-out after the first year, gets $155 million. Same thing with Blake Snell when he went to the Giants. If you're willing to give up the opt-outs, I think you could do it. And yeah, there's no such thing as a bad one-year contract. So if the Cardinals could count on a player opting out after 1 year, yeah, I think those are waters that the Cardinals could swim in.
And even if it's 3 or 4 years in this case, I think the Cardinals would be willing to give a lot of money out like that in the beginning if it doesn't mean you have to have this guy on your team when they're 38, 39 years old. They'll never swim in the waters of Juan Soto. They will never give out $750 million over 10 or 12 or 13 years in baseball. But yes, they could give out $3 or $4 million and justify that smaller total in the beginning, even if it means more money each year for the player.
And it'll be a while, and we might have a salary cap by the time the Cardinals are ready to go out and get that free agent or make that trade for that high-priced player. Those are your quick hits here in the fight. And later in the show, you can participate in some risky business. We are going to build a parlay. And if you like what we do, then you can take advantage of it and make a bet for yourself. But coming up, we have 4 downs from the divisional round in the NFL playoffs here in the fight. All right, time now for four downs from the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And Andrew, we have a tendency to be excited about the last thing we see in sports, and that is my first down, because it happens every year with the number one seeds. We get impressed with a team like the Bills going to Jacksonville and beating a good team like the Jags on Wild Card Weekend, or a team like San Francisco winning their opening playoff game over Philly, and that's great. But the reason those number one seeds are number one seeds is that they're really good, and both the Broncos and especially the Seahawks proved that over the weekend. Both play great defense, both are exceptionally well coached, and don't be surprised by a Denver-Seattle Super Bowl. It makes such a big difference to get that weekend off while everybody else is playing. Those two teams are fresh, they're prepared, and as we see here, really, really, really good.
And I would be surprised if it is Denver, just based on what we know about the quarterback situation now. I would not be surprised about the Seahawks. But I think to your point, if you have a top 5 offense and you have a top 5 defense in the NFL, which both of these teams basically have, or at least they're borderline to that, you're probably going to win a majority of your football games. And that's why they're the one seeds, and that's why they're so spectacular. Plus, when you get home field advantage, it becomes a lot easier when you're in the NFL playoffs.
And I do think, for whatever reason, neither of these teams were seen a lot on national TV during the course of the season. I don't think we saw enough of them because television is focused on teams like the Chiefs and the 49ers. They get a lot of airtime. But neither the Seahawks or the Broncos were really television darlings during the course of the 25 season. So I don't think people really know as much about them as they know about some of the other teams playing.
And I think that's a respect thing. People just don't want to respect that the Seahawks have a good football team. They watched a lot of the Denver Broncos games and see them score 16 points,
right,
or have to come back and score 19 points in order to win a game. So they lose respect for the teams that either don't blow out their opponent, which is a hard thing to do in football, right? Beating a team by a lot of points is a hard thing to do. And since neither of those teams were able to really do that this season and just found a way to win those close games, it's almost as though they don't want to admit that these are the two best teams in football.
They're pretty good.
My first down, Randy. A great season comes to an end in Chicago. Chicago pulled off 2 miracle plays in the playoffs that were more exciting than anything I've ever seen in a while from this franchise, and seems to have a lot going for them as the years go on under Ben Johnson. But the one big thing I'll say is you can't win football games when you lose the turnover margin 3-0. I know I said that in the beginning of this show. I'm going to hammer it again, though, because I don't care who you are. You could be Patrick Mahomes, but if Patrick Mahomes throws 5 picks and the other team doesn't, they're probably not winning the game. And every divisional round loser had more turnovers than they'd like to admit. I don't know if you know this, all of you football fans out there, but you don't win many football games when you give the other team the ball. And the other team has the ball more than you, and they score more than you because of it.
Statistically, when you're -3 in the turnover ratio, you have a 9% chance of winning that game. A 91% chance of losing. That's why you want to build teams, you want to build defenses to take the ball away, because it does tell the story of a game. I remember as a kid when I was a football Cardinal fan, you'd leave the ballpark and the scoreboard would have all the stats from the game, and the football Cardinals would dominate in every category until you got to the bottom. And they'd have 3 or 4 turnovers and the other team would have 0 or 1, and that's why they lost. And that's why bad teams are bad and good teams are good. And that's why some teams have that odd year where they take the ball away a ton and you think, oh, they're going to be good for a long time. And then all of a sudden they revert to normal the next year. It's because some teams have that odd year. And one of your guys, Lovie Smith, was as good as it ever got at taking the ball away. And that is the key. You don't have to worry about your offense. You don't have to worry about the other things your defense does. You don't have to worry about your special teams if you win the turnover ratio 3-0 every game.
And to your point, this goes for every sport. You look at basketball and you see a stat column that says points off turnovers. And if that says 20 and the other team says 6, you probably won that game by about 10 to 12 points because you had more points off turnovers or second chance points or whatever it might be. If you win that statistic, you win majority of your games.
My second down, there are 32 teams in the National Football League, 10 of them making coaching changes, at least 10, in 2026. Now, the latest is Sean McDermott, fired by the Buffalo Bills, and he'll be looking for a good organization. You know, Kevin Stefanski took a job in Atlanta where he feels like he has stable ownership, and a former player in Matt Ryan that he hopes knows what he's doing, but Man, Stefanski just left a situation where Browns ownership went out and got Deshaun Watson and gave him enough money to ruin the organization. Now Stefanski joins an organization where Arthur Blank once gave Michael Vick power. Remember Blank pushing Vick in the wheelchair? And just gave Ryan the keys to the building. I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach, but I'm not sure he walked into a great organization in Atlanta. But it's got to be better than Cleveland. And the Falcons fired their GM too. So maybe Stefanski will get a say in that hiring process and be able to get the most out of the Falcons in the next 5 years. It really is amazing how many bad organizations have fired coaches. And I don't know what to read into Buffalo. Are they a bad organization that fell into a good quarterback and a good coach for a while? Or is it a good organization with a mediocre coach that just couldn't get him over the top in the playoffs?
And I'll start with Kevin Stefanski. I think what's working for him in this move to Atlanta is that Michael Penix Jr. is a really easy quarterback to get along with. Versus when he was in Cleveland and you had Baker Mayfield and it was hard there for some years, and that's what led to the, we'll call it divorce between those two. So because Michael Penix Jr. is easy to get along with, Kevin Stefanski will feel like he has all control, which is good for him. To your point about Sean McDermott, I think it's interesting because it'll play into my second down here in a moment. But you look at, on paper, what Sean McDermott was able to do for that organization, and you have to think, wow, that is going to be hard to replicate. And there aren't a lot of coaches out there that have been able to replicate that success. The only other person was really John Harbaugh, and that's the guy that also got ousted because he blew too many games in the playoffs, and the organization is like, oh, we got to find a different coach that doesn't have this happen. You're in the playoffs, right? That's what we're talking about. You're in the playoffs, and it only how many times do you lose football games, because you get one chance to do it? A lot of times you lose those games if you're a head coach. And so Sean McDermott, he will find a home at some point. I just think the Bills are going to have to be really selective with who they think they can replace him with.
If you're going to fire a guy, the next guy better be better.
And I think about that with John Harbaugh. That's where I want to go with my second down, because the Giants finally landed their guy, hiring John Harbaugh to lead the franchise, desperate for stability after another lost season. The deal, 5 years, $100 million. He's in great shape, too. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. This is a team that could have a Bears-like turnaround. And they also have a top 5 pick in the draft. And I think the question that we just have to ask ourselves is pretty simple, is can Harbaugh turn promise into actual wins? Baltimore fans will say have fun with the late game collapses and, if he can't win with Lamar, no way he's winning with Dart. But if I were a Baltimore fan, I'd be more worried about him winning again before the Ravens do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he does a fantastic job, and who doesn't allow leads to dissipate in the NFL? It's a fourth quarter game, and we always see teams that blow leads in the NFL. And sure, he didn't win another Super Bowl from 2012 on. There's nothing wrong with being in the playoffs every year and taking your shot. And in addition to you talking about all the talent that the Giants have, they're able to run block for those running backs. And they've got 2 tackles that are both Pro Bowl or All-Pro guys. And when you have that, when you have a good offensive line, good defensive line, and you've got the quarterback, they need to do some work in their defensive backfield and linebacking core. There's no question about that. But those are things that Harbaugh specializes in. If I were a Giants fan, I'd be thrilled about where they're headed.
And I understand the feeling of being stale. You know what? We get to this point every year, and we just can't get over that hump. I understand that feeling. But it's so hard to find a guy that can get you over that hump. And there's so few coaches out there that can do that. So would you rather put yourself in position where you're back in that game every year and have that coach that gets you there to go over that hump? Or would you rather take the chance and go after that fresh-face offensive coordinator that might not even get you to that playoff game in the first place?
Yeah, I think we have a tendency to believe that just because people own NFL teams that they're smart, or just because they're a general manager of an NFL team that they're smart. Don't believe that for a second. All right, my third down. I'm not one to look at games as quarterbacks being boxers or tennis players. You guys know that. I try to make it a little bit more nuanced than one-on-one when I point out that there are 53 players on a roster. There's an offensive line, a defense that can do in a quarterback. But with that being said, when Josh Allen took the blame for Buffalo's loss on Saturday, he was right. His first fumble before the half with 2 seconds left that led to a Broncos field goal was inexcusable, and his team lost in overtime. He didn't have a chance on his other fumble, and Allen's second interception, as you see here, could have gone either way. But it definitely wasn't his fault. That's a game where you can't turn it over, and Allen did. When he took the blame, like every quarterback should, he was correct in his assessment.
Yeah, Josh Allen, I feel so bad for him. One, because he's just so easy to cheer for, right? But number two, you kind of look at what was in front of him, and it was like, hey, this is the year for you. If you're going to do it, it's going to be this year because you don't have to deal with a Patrick Mahomes. You don't have to deal with Lamar Jackson. This is your year. We're setting it up for you. But this is not the Bills team that you wanted in front of you. You didn't have the defense, the really good defense. It was all on Josh Allen's shoulders, and I think that's why he wears it more too.
Yeah, and to my point, yeah, he wasn't dealing with Lamar Jackson. He wasn't dealing with Patrick Mahomes. He was dealing with an awesome defense in Denver right there, right? That's a good defense. They led the league in sacks. Sometimes when you get hit by a quarterback, or when you get hit by a defensive lineman as a quarterback, it's not your fault. Sometimes somebody missed a block, or sometimes there was a really good player on the other side of the line of scrimmage that beat your guy to cause you to get hit and cause a fumble. It's not always on the quarterback, but in this instance, I think with Allen, even though that defense for Denver is great, I think that if he doesn't lose that fumble at the end of the first half, it's a different ballgame.
And there are a lot of great quarterbacks in history. My viewing, of course, comes in the 21st century, so keep that in mind when I say this, but I'm going to stay with Josh Allen here. He is the toughest quarterback I've ever seen. He even makes the case for best, but here's why I say toughest and why I think it's clear. Dude's never hurt. And when he is, he doesn't miss games. In fact, he asks to get hit more when he's banged up because he wants to put his team in the best position to win. The past 3 seasons, he's the best at doing it through the air and on the ground. Every time I watch him play, it's like I'm watching a new movie. I never know what's coming next. Again, I feel bad for Josh and what he encountered this year, but he sacrificed everything to give his team a chance at the Super Bowl. They fell short again. Obviously, they're making moves now by getting Sean McDermott out of there. We'll see if the next guy can help Josh Allen, in this case, get over the hump. But if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I'll be so sad for him.
Yeah, me too. And by the way, one of your guys, Jim McMahon, was as tough as there ever was. And there have been a few other ones. Y.A. Tittle, if you ever see the picture of Y.A. Tittle for the Giants standing with the bloodied face, there have been a lot of tough quarterbacks in the NFL, but to your point, he's so big and so strong. He's like Ben Roethlisberger, but he's faster. Yeah.
Can move.
And so he really is remarkable. And yeah, it is a shame that he hasn't been to a Super Bowl. All right, my fourth down. The Patriots' last playoff win before Sunday was on February 3rd, 2019, when they won the Super Bowl over the Rams. They did so with Bill Belichick coaching and Tom Brady under center. Well, it looks like after a little hiatus, the Pats are back. Mike Vrabel is a proven head coach. It's unbelievable that Tennessee let him get away. His resume with the Titans was enough to prove that he's a great head coach, and he has a franchise quarterback in Drake May. May has now done it at the highest level against that Texans defense. And even when he doesn't play his best, he didn't Sunday against Houston with an interception and 4 fumbles, 2 lost, he finds a way to win the game. Sadly, we might be in for another Patriots dynasty and another run of the insufferable New England fans.
Yeah, and if I have the stat correct, I believe I saw that it was the Chiefs and the Patriots over the last 15 years that have been featured in the AFC Championship
Yep,
game.
15 straight years. One of those teams or both have been in the AFC Championship game.
And Drake May looks as comfortable as ever back there to be able to lead the Patriots to consistent AFC Championship games. If I'm an AFC team, I'm really hurting right now knowing that, hey, you know, maybe I could have traded up to get Drake May, or maybe he could be the quarterback on my team. But no, he's with a good head coach. He's in a good organization. They have good structure all around him. They really did build that offense too, you know, bringing Diggs in and drafting Travion Henderson. Ramondre Stevenson somehow is learning how to hold on to the football come playoff time. This is a Patriots team that it just wouldn't shock me at all if they win this year.
And Patriots fans, I think, would take trading Bill Belichick to North Carolina for Drake May.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. That's a good call. Sorry, Tar Heels. All right, my fourth down, and I think this is really funny. I want to show you the video of the girl that predicted it all.
Bronco! No. Buffalo! Panther. Packers. Jaguars. Eagles. Chargers. Steelers.
Yeah, how many of those teams won, Randy?
Yeah, they're not great.
Yeah, so if you were
Predicted
following
everything.
her plays, you would practically be, I think it's what, 10-0 now, right?
Really?
Yeah, maybe it's 9-1 because the only one that she didn't get right was the Patriots toward the beginning there in the divisional round games. But every other team, if you would have gone against her plays, you would be a pretty rich man this weekend.
Oh, really?
So when she comes out with her next video, when dad or mom posts that video, make sure you go against what she is saying. I think it's hilarious, though, how trendy that video
That's
is
fantastic.
becoming.
That's great. All right, coming up in the list, as the curtain comes down on the 2025 college football season, our favorite games of the season. Next in The Fight. With the college football season coming to an end, we present you our favorite college football games of 2025 in the list. And I'll start with my number 3, Andrew. I got a kick out of the Alabama-Oklahoma rematch in the first round of the college football playoff. A couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, the Sooners went to Tuscaloosa, you'll remember this, and took care of business 23-21 over the Crimson Tide. The sequel was played in Norman on December 20th, and Oklahoma stormed to a 17-0 lead early in the second quarter, but back came the Crimson Tide. Touchdown pass from Ty Simpson, a field goal, and then this backbreaker from the Bama defense. That is Xavier Brown with the interception return for the touchdown that tied the game at 17. Then early in the second half, Ty Simpson to Latsier Brooks, a 30-yard score here, and that put Bama up 24-17. They were never headed in a 34-24 win over Oklahoma. A great comeback and a fun game. And I kind of root for Kalen DeBoer. I know people are down on him in Alabama. And unfortunately for the Crimson Tide, they were annihilated by Indiana in their next playoff game, 38-3. That didn't help Kalen DeBoer at all. But I thought that Oklahoma-Alabama game was a fun one.
Yeah, it definitely didn't help him facing Alabama fans for the offseason and into next season as well. Kalen DeBoer, though, I agree with you. He's a great coach. He did a lot of great things for Washington. He's in a terrible situation and taking over for Nick Saban, and Alabama fans expect to win, which they did this season. You got to the college football playoff, and you are making strides in the right direction. I also think that game there made Ty Simpson for this coming NFL draft more than it did for John Mateer, who ended up throwing that interception, that costly pick, which allowed Bama to come back.
And Mateer coming back to college.
Right, exactly. And that helps too, because you look at Dante Moore, you look at John Mateer, you look at all of these quarterbacks that decide, hey, I almost think the money is better here, or at least the situation is better here than it is at the next level. And my number 3, Randy, let's kick it off with a national championship team. We watched the birth of stars, Malachi Toney announcing himself, and C.J. Carr flashing toughness and creativity in his first start. But the moment that burned in was the ridiculous C.J. Daniels one-handed catch that kind of made you stop mid-sentence and just laugh because there's nothing a defense can do about it. Add in Miami finally slaying a top 10 giant after 8 years. Back-to-back 75-yard drives to steal control, Carr dragging Notre Dame back from down 14, and Carter Davis drilling a 47-yard walk-off like it was inevitable. Somebody give me a chill pill because my heart rate is now bouncing through the roof. Who would have thought that game was the reason one team got into the college football playoff and one team didn't?
Yeah, and for all the Notre Dame fans out there, they say, well, we won 10 in a row after losing our first 2. Well, you lost out to Miami. The committee said that it was between Miami and Notre Dame, and as the old saying goes, if you don't like it, play better.
Amen.
All right, my number 2. It took me a long time. I don't know about you. It took me a long time to believe in Fernando Mendoza in Indiana, but I became a believer when the Hoosiers beat Penn State on November 8th. I really thought the Nittany Lions were going to win when they drove for a touchdown to make it 24-20 with just over 4 minutes left, but Mendoza, after getting sacked on the first play of the ensuing possession, drove his team 87 yards for the winning score. They never ran the ball. It took passes of 22, 12, 29, 17, and then this, a 7-yard game winner to Omar Cooper with 1:15 to go. Unbelievable. Okay, so there it is without audio, but let's hear Gus Johnson with this again.
Where does voice go, Randy?
Oh, give him the Heisman now. It's unbelievable. It's one of the great calls of all time, and you couldn't even understand what he was saying. But that kept Indiana unbeaten, and the win over Penn State, for me, was what thoroughly legitimized Indiana. Even though Penn State wasn't that great this year, the way Indiana came back against them makes them my number 2.
And that throw by Fernando Mendoza, in terms of Gus Johnson saying give him the Heisman, was just insane. I know the catch was even better than the throw, but if you really slow down the throw that he made, he is getting sandwiched by 2 Penn State defenders, and he still threw that football to the only spot Omar Cooper could catch it in contested coverage, and then it was the toe tap, the one toe tap that you need in college football to win that football game. You wonder if Indiana would still be in the same place they are today if they lost that football game. You'd have to think so, that they would find a way en route to winning or, you know, at least entering that national championship stage. But, yeah, this was a good start and finish for them.
And would Penn State have kept Tony Smith, or would they have hired?
It's an interesting
would they
question.
still have brought Matt Campbell aboard?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because if you have your interim step up and just tear it up, like Sharon Moore kind of was in waiting in Michigan before, you know, everything kind of spiraled out of control for him. It's hard to kind of move on and just say, hey, no, let's go with this guy instead. All right, my number 2, Randy. This one is burned into my brain because it made absolutely no sense. And that's exactly why it's one of my favorites. Texas A&M was down 30-3 at halftime. Playing like the Monstars had stolen their talent with missed kicks, turnovers, Marcel Reed having the worst first half of his life. And then somehow they authored the biggest comeback in school history. No points in the final 10 minutes, yet every snap felt like survival. Reed flipped the script with nearly 440 yards, and Kyle Field turned into chaos. Capped off by, remember this, the surreal moment of a state trooper literally chasing down a South Carolina player after a touchdown. What a day this was in college football, and what a catch right there by Concepcion.
It's interesting, a lot of us, and I was one of them, thought that A&M was as complete a team as there was. They lose in the first round of the playoffs. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they weren't as good as we thought. They were really, really good, but maybe they were kind of exposed a little bit in this game in that first half.
Yeah, you wonder, but then you also think about, if you're able to come back in that football game, how much does that add to your resume more than trailing 30-3 in the first half? I think a lot of teams out there were like, man, you cannot take your foot off the gas when you're playing A&M.
All right, my number 1, Mizzou, Kansas. It lived up to the hype on September 6th. KU raced to an early lead, but after the first quarter, the Tigers dominated before a Faurot Field sellout. Kansas led 21-6 after a quarter, but Mizzou came back. Bo Pribula to Kevin Coleman, and that makes it 21-13. The St. Louisan turning in his best performance as a Tiger with 10 catches. Then a safety and a couple of field goals, and after this touchdown and those scores, the Tigers are back in it. But it was still just 35-31 Tigers in the fourth when Jamal Roberts takes the handoff from Pribula and goes 63 yards for this score. Just ran away from the Jayhawks, and the Tigers won it over KU 42-31. And so many people that had not had the opportunity to experience the Missouri-Kansas rivalry had the time of their lives during that sellout at Faurot Field.
And, you know, this was the game that we all thought Bo Pribula was the next big thing. The fact that he was able to lead that Mizzou comeback, and he looked really good both on the ground and through the air, and it was almost like, wow, again, it's striking gold in the transfer portal, which I think Eli Drinkwitz does better than any other coach in college football. And you just look at a lot of the moves that he's making for his team of next season and how he's compiling his roster. He's adjusted to NIL as like the greats in college football are right now. Be happy about the position Mizzou is in today because you have Eli Drinkwitz as your head coach.
I thought Lane Kiffin was the portal king.
Nope, not anymore, Randy. You know, there's a guy, that left his team on the verge of a college football playoff run, and then he decided to chase money. Yeah, no one likes that guy anymore.
Okay.
Nope, Lane Kiffin no longer that guy, and he also could not get a guy to move without breaking contract with his current school. If he was able to do that, I'd consider him portal king because that means he could do anything. But because he couldn't do that, that means he's human.
All right.
And my number one, let's go back to week 2. I'm going to talk about Texas A&M again. I'm going to talk about Notre Dame
You just
again.
really don't like Notre Dame, do you?
And this is not a shot toward my brother-in-law, who's the biggest Notre Dame fan I know. This game is just one of my favorites because it had everything I love about college football. It was urgency, it was chaos, it was emotion, and an unforgettable moment that swung an entire season. Yes, you heard me right, season. Marcel Reed escaping, extending, and finding my guy, Nate Borkature, former Nebraska tight end Nate Borkature, a player who hadn't been targeted all night. He caught the game-winning touchdown with 13 seconds left. That's the stuff. A road drought snapped, a season saved, a national contender now wobbling, and a forgotten name becoming the answer. All in one night. And as we know now, this game made A&M, and it killed Notre Dame. We all go back to that Miami game and say, no, that one killed Notre Dame. If Notre Dame wins this football game, they're in.
Yeah.
Even if you lose to Miami, you're in the college football playoff. But this game also solidified A&M as a bye team in the college football playoff.
That was great. And it was a fun college football season. Coming up, we're going to build a parlay here in the fight. All right, it's time for us to build a parlay. We've got some risky business for you here in the fight, and you've got Denver hosting the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game at 2 o'clock Sunday here in St. Louis, 2 o'clock St. Louis time. Jarrett Stidham making his first start, hasn't thrown a pass in a couple of years, but with Bo Nix hurt, he has to start for the Broncos. The over-under on Stidham passing yards is 187.5, and I am going to go with the under.
Shocker.
And, I don't think that he's going to get much more than 187.5. So that's what I'm going with for my little portion of the parlay here. What do you got, Andrew?
I am going to play in the other game, Randy. So you have the Rams at the Seahawks. And, as you look at the season schedule here, the Seahawks have what I believe was an overtime win and also a 2-point loss to the Rams. But they have home field advantage. They're below the key number. I think the game will be close, yes, just like every other game. But if you're going to give me, I say it all the time, if you're going to give me below the key number, I'm going to take that at -2.5. Give me the home team. It's really hard to win on the road in the NFL.
All right, we are going conservative here, but we're still going to do pretty well because we've got a little bit of a parlay. We'll put $100 down, euphemistically, and the payout will be $351.18. So go Jarrett Stidham, complete like 11 passes. And hopefully you'll wind up with a win
First
over
pass,
the hated Patriots.
incompletion, right? That's what we should bet. His first pass, incomplete.
Yeah. All right, that's risky business here in the fight. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It, story time with Uncle Randy, and today in sports history here in the fight. All right, it's time now for Take It or Leave It, and I think I have an easy one for you here.
Oh, yeah?
So Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols are eligible for the Cardinals Hall of Fame in 2026. So take it or leave it, this should be the easiest and most decisive vote in Cardinals Hall of Fame history.
Yeah, I will absolutely take that. Here we go. Let's bring this one wide for us. Boom, take.
I'll take it too.
Oh, and I'll take it again. Oh, and I'll take it again. Oh, and I'll take it again. Yeah,
Director
let's
Tyler
do
will
one
take it
more.
again.
Okay.
There we
Oh, you
go.
want to take it one more time?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that.
I don't even know why we're voting, actually.
They should just be honorary. Just
put 'em
we
in.
know what's going to happen, so just
put 'em
walk
in.
them right on through.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a good summer to
That-
have those guys. And I would guess that there will be a few Yachty and Albert bobbleheads that the Cardinals will turn out as the voting unfolds for those two.
Might be one of the more attended nights at
I would
Busch
think
Stadium.
so, yeah.
Okay, mine for you, Randy, is this. I mentioned Eli Drinkwitz. I want to talk about connection with Eli here. So the GM role is becoming a common in college football, except Kurt Cignetti goes without one. The Indiana coach made it clear, in quotes, "I'm the GM and the head coach." And that's how our friend Eli Drinkwitz thinks as well up in Columbia. Take it or leave it. It may be more work now, but that's the best approach to take as a head coach.
Oh, I will take it. Yeah, you have to control everything. And you can have a guy, I think Mizzou hired like a president of personnel or something like that. But Eli, as he told us on this show, he said, yeah, the fewer people between me and the president, the better. So that makes sense to me. And
Right.
I think that they do it the right way. And Eli Drinkwitz, if you look at the Mizzou website and look at the personnel in the football office, he's got like 20 people that are doing scouting, and they're involved with agents and stuff like that. And he does a lot. He is the GM, but they've got enough people to handle all of that work in the Mizzou office.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. If you're a GM, your main role is what? Probably dealing with NIL and all of the stadium stuff and all of that jazz. Hey, he's fine doing that stuff. All coaches did that stuff before you had to bring in a GM.
He misses, though, coaching and actually having his hands on the offense and calling plays and things like that. He wants to coach, but he understands that in this day and age, he can't. It's been taken away from
Got to
him.
oversee.
All right, that is Take It or Leave It. Now it's time for Story Time with Uncle Randy. And we are going to spin for a decade. We're going to spin for a sport. And then I'll come up with a little story for you. We're going to go all the way back to the 1970s.
Young
when
Randy.
I was just a youngin'. But I remember a lot of fun stuff. Let's see what sport we got. Oh,
got
1970s baseball.
Have fun.
Holy cow.
This is where you cook.
Okay. Let me think of a year for you. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'm going to go 1974. Of course, that's the year that Lou Brock was he broke the record, right? We talked about that before. He broke
Correct.
the record for stolen bases. Cardinals, and you might not remember this, Cardinals had a pitcher named Lynn McLaughlin. Sadly, died in a fire in Louisiana when he was only 38 years old. Lynn McLaughlin was a great starter for the Cardinals. He actually started the All-Star game. And I remember actually going to a game when I was a kid. McLaughlin, I think, was pitching against Philadelphia. It was July, and turned in a great performance. But I remember, and this was right before the All-Star game, that he was great in that, and I was shocked that I wasn't shocked that he made the All-Star team, but Lynn McLaughlin, the Cardinals starting pitcher. Had you ever heard of Lynn McLaughlin?
No.
Starts an All-Star game for the Cardinals. He was a really good pitcher, and the Cardinals just couldn't find their way with starting pitching in the 70s. Once they traded Steve Carlton and Bob Gibson fell off, they had some good young pitchers. They brought up John Denny, who subsequently won a Cy Young Award with the Phillies. Bob Forsch was really good, but they never really put it together in the starting rotation, or for that matter, in the bullpen. They traded Ken Reitz for a guy named Pete Falcone. But I remember the one guy that stuck out to me in terms of starting pitching in the 70s was Lynn McLaughlin. Look him up.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
So in this century, or at least in my lifetime, think of a pitcher in my lifetime, whether it's similar statistics or just similar gamesmanship, how they pitched. Who does he remind you of so that I can kind of make the connection?
Let's see, a big right-hander, didn't have an awful lot of good years.
But had the ability to start an all-star game.
Yeah, had the. See, Andy Bennis lasted too long.
Okay.
Alan Bennis didn't last long enough.
Okay.
So this is a guy that had like maybe a 3-4 year run, and it never really came. See, Pryor was too good, and Kerry Wood was too. It's hard to find that guy.
Right.
He was
But
he was a shooting star.
Okay, you're giving me a lot of names though that I can say if he's a step down from those
Yeah.
guys, I'm pretty good. I'm feeling like I know him. What's his name?
Lynn McLaughlin.
Lynn McLaughlin.
McGlothen. So
Okay.
that's 1970s baseball in Storytime with Uncle
How about
Randy.
that? I learned something
All
new
right.
every day.
One of Andrew's favorites, this date in sports history, 2013. In the first game of a lockout-shortened NHL season, Vladimir Tarasenko makes his NHL debut against the Red Wings. Watch this debut coming through the fire. scores a couple of goals. One in the first period, his second shift of the game at the 6:36 mark. There's young Vladdy. Watch this. Watch these 2 goals. This is second shift of the game, second shift in the NHL. What a beautiful goal that was. Yeah, it was. And then 29 seconds into the second period, here he is again on the power play.
So good.
And the Blues would win 6-0. Chris Stewart would also score a pair in that game. Jaro Halak with the shutout. And the Blues blanked the hated Red Wings 6-0.
Not a lot of young players like that I've seen in a Blue Note uniform have so much confidence coming onto the ice once they made their debut. I haven't seen a lot of that, and Vladdy was just different for that reason.
He didn't like the nickname Tank. When he was drafted, remember, it was Tarasenko, sounded like Tank. He didn't like that nickname, but when he needed to be a tank, he could. And when he needed to show skill, like on those 2 goals, incredible skill. He was such a gifted player, and he was also a huge part of that Stanley Cup championship.
Yes, he
team.
was.
We need to give him his due because he was a huge part of that.
And there were so many people out there saying the Blues would never win a Stanley Cup with that guy on their team. So many. And now you look at the stats, and you're right. You look at who led the team in goals. It was either him or Jaden Schwartz. They were neck and neck. Those 2 guys were so big, and without Vladdy, they don't make a run to the Stanley Cup final.
No, he was remarkable, and it's a shame the way he left. And I'm kind of surprised he's still hanging around and playing. Is he in Minnesota now?
He is in Minnesota,
so, yeah, he's kind of bounced around. He won another cup with the Panthers after he left here. So it was on this date, 2013, that Vladdy scored those 2 goals in his NHL debut. Also, sadly, same night, Sam Musial passed away.
Yeah, it was a
bittersweet
high and low.
evening.
Right, it was bittersweet. Great word.
Hey, we want you to know that you need to tell your friends that you're watching us on Matrix Midwest at 5 and 10 every evening, and then again at 7 the next morning. The Fight with Carricker and Company. We're always available on the KMOV app and the new Matrix Midwest app. You can check that out. Plus, on your favorite podcast platform, and you can sign up to play in the fight against me at the Carricker and Company tab at matrixmidwest.com. Just go to the drop down and find the fight and sign up, and we'll get in touch with you. Hey, thanks for tuning in. For Andrew Rogers, great job as always.
Great job by you.
And our superb director, Tyler Klaus, I'm Randy Carricker, and we will see you next time in the fight. So long, everybody.